Hi everyone, Sean Waldman with Secure Cyber, and this is your weekly cyber update. Well, first in the headlines this week, we start with a report from Infoblox indicating that over the last 5 years, thousands of domains have been hijacked due to something called the sitting duck attack. So mainly the report is indicating, just to summarize everything for you, the report is indicating that mostly this is residing on the part of the domain registrar who is falling victim to a lot of social engineering attacks and misconfigurations of the domain itself. So on the social engineering side, what can happen is somebody can impersonate you, and then they can socially engineer the registrar to transfer ownership. So one of the things that we really recommend is that you get in touch with your registrar and really understand their procedures as far as being able to process change to a DNS record. The second thing that we recommend is the use of multi-factor authentication inside your domain admin login, so that at least as far as managing the domain itself from a technical perspective is protected via multi-factor authentication. Again, the Infoblox report is in the show notes, and I recommend you take a look at it. It's actually pretty interesting. Next up in the headlines, China's Volt Typhoon is coming back with a vengeance. So you probably remember, or may not, about 10 months ago, the FBI had claimed victory over China's Volt Typhoon by intercepting their infrastructure and basically remotely wiping them. What we've learned so far is that China's Volt Typhoon and its full crew and its botnet are back, compromising, again, old Cisco routers, as well as Netgear. So the specific Cisco routers are the RV320 and 325 routers, and now Netgear ProSafe routers are also being compromised. Over the summer, Volt Typhoon was caught compromising the Singapore telecommunications system, which was apparently an exercise to prepare for infiltrating the U.S. telecommunications system even more. You know, we've reported already on this show about Volt Typhoon hitting a lot of critical infrastructure entities, water, wastewater, and power. And then recently, during the election campaign, Volt Typhoon also attacked Verizon's communication infrastructure, as well as, I believe, AT&T's, to get access to Trump and Vance and some of their phone activity and emails. So basically, be very aware. I think the number one story here, on top of awareness, is to really have an inventory of the equipment that's inside your infrastructure. If you're a water, wastewater, or power operator and you've got old equipment inside your network, that equipment has to go. Additionally, not only does that equipment have to go, but the replacement equipment has got to be kept up as far as firmware updates. So remember, just because these devices aren't exposed to the direct internet, they are still vulnerable, meaning that other attack paths can come inside your network or can offer opportunities to come inside your network, whether that's through an exposed server that's connected to the internet or directly exposed to the internet. It could also be an email or a phishing email for someone who's able to put some type of software on an endpoint in order to gain access. So that's why no matter if a device is exposed to the direct internet or not, that data or that equipment has to stay updated. Next up in the news, Palo Alto issued an alert indicating that there were two high CVEs, or two big vulnerabilities, for Palo Alto's Expedition software system. Expedition is used for configuration transfers or configuration management inside the Palo network. CISA then indicated and elevated it to the known exploited vulnerability catalog, indicating that those two CVEs for Expedition were being actively exploited. Palo then they did update their bulletin indicating that it had been accessed in the wild. However, there's no real information available right now on who is exploiting it and how. So if you've got Palo and a Palo infrastructure, just make sure that if you're running Expedition that you've patched it, as well as making sure, of course, that you've got all the necessary security updates installed for your Palo infrastructure. Well, if you've got D-Link NAS devices inside or exposed outside your network, back on November 6th, there was a high CVE that was issued by D-Link for the, let's see, what was it? The D-Link DNS 320. We've got the article listed inside the notes here, but those are now being actively exploited. So in this particular article, if you have this NAS device exposed to the internet, you should very quickly apply the necessary patches. Just make sure, we've talked about it a lot on the show, make sure that you've got updates set. If you can on the D-Link devices, set them to auto update. That is probably in your best interest. But always take inventory of the devices that you have exposed to the internet, because those are going to take a greater priority as far as when you need to patch them and when you don't. Next up, Brian Krebs with Krebs Online is reporting that the FBI has issued a report saying that they are seeing a lot of stolen credentials that are coming from local government and specific police departments, and they're also seeing a spike in fake subpoenas. So apparently what's happening is bad guys are getting a hold of credentials for a police department, and then they're posting those credentials for sale on the dark web. And then using those credentials, they're able to use the stolen credentials and the access to the law enforcement email account that has been stolen to initiate emergency data requests. These are requests that are issued to maybe an ISP in order to get information about IP addresses and other sensitive law enforcement information. So those stolen email accounts are being used to launch these fraudulent attacks. So what's the moral of the story here? Multi-factor authentication. We repeat those words often on this show, and this is definitely a case where multi-factor authentication is definitely something that would stop something like this, as well as making sure that if you use the Office 365 platform specifically, that you're looking at your secure score and that you've checked all the boxes and done all the things to make sure that your O365 environment is secure. And last up on the show, it's been Patch Tuesday, this last Tuesday here in November. So we'll post the information from Krebs Online. He does a really good job of breaking down all the patches and everything that goes along with all the information about, what patch might break something and what patch wouldn't. But it's been an active Patch Tuesday. I think there was about 89 Microsoft patches that were issued. So what are we going to do? Make sure that we're vulnerability scanning, because vulnerability scanning is how we verify that patches have been completed. And just make sure that you've got a good inventory system out there to let you know that just in case you forget a device that's out there and it hasn't been patched, a good combination of vulnerability scanning and a good inventory system will make sure that you've got everything. And that's it for the show this week. I appreciate your time. Please like and subscribe this episode, as well as commenting down in the comment section. If you've got questions or something that we went over that you weren't sure about or you had a question about, please post those comments. I do try and look at all the comments and answer everyone. I don't answer the bots, so if you're a bot and you're waiting for an answer, I'm probably not going to talk to you. So, what do we say on this show? Let's be careful out there.